Hi everyone, in this video we are going to code and style the footer section of this website. So within the footer section we are going to have three different parts. The first part is going to be this newsletter section. Then we are going to have this main info. This is what I've called main info, and the final part underneath that is going to be the author part. So let's go ahead and let's jump into coding the first part. This is the newsletter. And we provide an S there, and I'm going to say footer underscore newsletter. This is going to be the div. Now before moving forward, I'm going to add the section padding utility class to this footer as well. So within here, what do we have? So let's just take a look at it. Now the styles for this, it resembles the styles for our section title, and it is actually that. So we are going to have a title, then we are going to have a form. Within the form, we are going to have an input type of email, and then an input type of submit, which is going to say subscribe. So I'm going to say this is the title. It's going to be an H2, and the title for this one is going to be newsletter title. So footer newsletter title, and then the other one is going to be section. This is the utility class title. We are going to have span. So within the span, we are going to say subscribe to our newsletter. So this is this is that part. So subscribe to our newsletter, get regular updates. Let's take a look at our changes. There we go. So subscribe to our newsletter, get regular updates. And then I'm going to have the form element. So the form is going to be form. It's going to have a class of -- form. So what do we have within the form? An input type of email. The placeholder is going to say enter email. And then we are going to have an input type of submit. The value is going to say subscribe. There we go. So the first part is done. Let us get out of this newsletter. That ends right here. So this is the ending div. The next part, I've called that main info. That is the biggest part of the footer. First, let's go ahead and let's create a class, a container for it. So it's going to be footer underscore main dash info. So what do we have in here? We're going to have four different parts. So the first part, this part, I've called this description. This is quick links, resources, and contact us. So there are going to be four parts. The first one is going to be description. Then we are going to have quick links. Let's go to resources. And finally, we are going to have contact us. So what do we have within the description? Within the description, we are going to have our logo, a paragraph, and social links. So I'm going to create, let me just copy this part. This is going to be very repetitive. So in here, I'm going to say description. There we go. So in here, first, let's add the logo. Now, what type of logo it is? Because we have two different kinds. We have a light version and dark version. Here we are going to use the light version. So this one is going to have a class of, let me just copy this part. Oops, copy that. Put it right here, underscore img. The source is going to be images / footer. No, this is not it. So it is, let's go into header. I think they are within the header, and it's going to be logo light version. The alt is going to be logo light version. And I'm going to add that loading equal to lazy as well. Save that. There we go. So let's bring this class towards the top and save that. After the image, we are going to have the paragraph or the actual description, and I'm going to give this a utility class of section para. So it's going to be description underscore underscore para, and then it's going to have the class of section underscore underscore para as well. Let's say lorem 30. I don't know. Save that. That's too much. Let's reduce it a little bit. There we go. Cool. And finally, make sure that when you're creating these, you do not get out of this description, because this is the container for all these elements. And finally, we're going to have our social links. Now, social links, there are going to be 4. So instead of just casually throwing them here, we are going to provide them within a container. So it's going to be description underscore underscore social. Now, let me just give you the icons. There we go. Let's check our changes. So far, this is what we have done. We are going to convert this into this. I mean, isn't CSS beautiful? So this part, which is the description, it is completed as well. We are going to jump into the next part, which is quick links. So within the quick links, first let me create that div, which is going to contain, so it's going to be quick dash links. Very simple, very generic. Cool. So we are going to have a title. Let's just take a look at it. We're going to have a title and then 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 links. So it's going to be a title. The title is going to be, let me copy this class name. It's extremely, now you can see that these class names, they tend to be lengthier in Word, but they are very descriptive. So you know, for the footer, you have a main info, and within the main info, you have quick links. It's extremely descriptive. I'm going to give this an h3, and the class is going to be quick links underscore underscore title. This is going to say quick links UI. There we go. And after the title, we are going to have our links. So I'm going to say links container. So what do we have? We have a UL. The UL is going to have a class of quick links underscore underscore links. Now in here we're going to have, so what do we want to create? We want to create 5 allies, right? So I'm going to say times 5. Each of the allies is going to have a class of links dash dash link. Cool. Now all the allies, they're going to have an anchor element for which the href is not going to go anywhere. So I'm going to provide a hash element, hash tag there. And the content is something that we need to actually go ahead and type. So is this correct? So we have an ally. This is main info, quick links, links, link, and then the anchor element. And for the anchor element, we are going to say road map. The next one is going to be privacy policy. So privacy policy. The one after that is going to be refund policy. That's a new one. Then we have terms of use. No, not terms of use, terms of service. And finally, we are going to, some websites do add pricing in the, most websites, they add pricing in the footer as well. So that is what I've done. There we go. So this part is done. Cool. So what do we have here? Nothing. Let's go ahead and let's move on to the next part, which is going to be the resources. So if I take a look at that, the resources, it resembles, aside from the content, it is the same as the quick links. So I could just technically copy that, put it right here, and everywhere where I've set quick links, I could change that with resources. And now that part is done. Let's add resources here as well. So for the resources, we are going to have home, page, portfolio. So it's going to be page. Is it page? Yeah, portfolio. And then portfolio. After the portfolio, we are going to have blog. And the final piece is going to be contact. There we go. So this part is done as well. And the final part is going to be that for this main info, the final part is going to be the contact us part. So let's go ahead and let's actually code that. I'm going to collapse this. I'm going to copy this. I'm going to put it right here. Let's grab all the resources, and then we are going to change all of them with contact. Oops, not uppercase, but lowercase. And I'm going to increase this to C. And this is going to be contact us. So there is a difference between this contact us and the resources, and that is this phone number, this email, these are not within anchor elements. I mean, technically this email, I'm not sure about the email, but this website, it has to be within an anchor element. So that when you click on it, it is going to go to the main website, to the main agency that is providing all these services. But what I'm going to do is I'm not going to actually go ahead and I'm going to do that. I'm just going to provide them within LIs. So let's remove these. What do we have? So first off, I'm going to have this phone number, phony phone number, of course. So this is the first one. After that, we are going to have a phony email address, which is going to come right here. After the phony email address, we are going to have the phony website. And finally, we are going to have this Bleecker Street reference right here. And this one we are not going to need. So let's save that. What do we have? So we have, let me take a look at that. Phone number, email, website, and that one. I think I was going to style this part differently than New York City, but I haven't, so I'm going to get rid of the span. We are not going to use that. We're not going to need that. Yep, there we go. So we have contact, we have all of these info. The final part within our HTML is going to be to write the author information. So let's go ahead and let's actually complete that. Now you can see there is a lot of consecutive divs right here. So the easy part for you to understand where this contact as a div ends and where to get out of it is just go to the start and say collapse, and then go to the start of the main info and say collapse on that too. And now we are within the author. So the author part is going to be extremely simple. We are going to have a paragraph, and within the paragraph we are going to have an anchor element. But first, we need to provide the div. Our styles, they're extremely divided. So there's a lot of divs, and I mean, it is good and it is not good. So I'm gonna let you be the judge of it. So within the paragraph, first let us go ahead and ampersand hash 64, then semicolon. This is going to be at 2022. All rights reserved. And I'm going to say developed by Muslim Hilali. Cool. Now, I need to provide this Muslim Hilali within anchor element. There we go. So it has a different styling. I'm going to give it a target of _blank. So when you click on my name, it is actually going to open up in a new page. It's going to redirect you to another page in a new tab. It's not going to open it up within the same website. This is a cool idea. This is really, really useful when you're actually making money from the traffic that is coming to your website. You never want to have your users leave your website. And for the href, I'm going to provide the address or my profile, my LinkedIn profile, Evolutive Learning by Muslim Hilali. So that is what I intend to be the name of my company someday. Okay, I think we are done with the HTML part. There we go. All rights reserved, developed by Muslim Halali. Let's jump into CSS. We are going to have a ton of CSS. So without further ado, let's go ahead and let's actually code all of that. Now for the footer, we're not going to have a background color, but we are going to have a background image. So URL, and I'm going to go into the images folder. From there, let's go to the footer and let's, footer. Let's grab the footer SVG. And I'm going to save this. Let's take a look at it. There we go. This is how it looks. So I'm going to give it a background size. Background size, I'm going to set it to cover. Now we have 3 divs within the footer, right? So if I collapse all of these, we have 3 main containers. We have newsletter, main info, and author. And I want all 3 of them to be on top, to be stacked vertically. So I'm going to say display flags. I mean, they are vertical by default, but when I say display flags, then I'm going to have more control. So I will be able to provide some specific dimensions like row gap for all of these elements, between these elements or among these elements. Basically, this display flags, it gives me a little bit more control over how I'm aligning different components. So even if your components, they're vertical and they basically follow the structure of the markup that you've written, that structure is vertical. It's always going to be vertical from top to bottom. Still, you can use flex because it is going to give you control over the alignment, either vertically or horizontally, and a lot of other cool stuff. So flex direction, let's set it to column. Gap for row and for column, I'm going to set it to hrem. There we go. So they are spaced a little bit too far from each other. So here is the newsletter, and then we have here is the space between the main info and the other part. Let's go ahead and let's grab every one of them one by one. So it is footer, newsletter. Let me grab the class from here so we don't make any mistakes. There we go. Now, what do I want to do with this? So what I want to do with this is I'm going to align the newsletter in the middle, in the center. So I'm going to say align self because the direction of the flex is vertical, right? Flex direction is vertical. It means that align items is opposite of that, which means it is working horizontal. So if I say align self center, it is going to center it horizontally for me. And I'm going to say width 100%, so do not overflow. Now, this one, it's going to have 2 elements. One is going to be that title. The other one is going to be the form. So if I say display flex, align items center vertically, but horizontally, I want them to be spaced apart like this. So you can see they're spaced apart. So I'm going to say justify content, space between. That is what I want to do. Keep in mind how I'm grouping different sets of properties, because when they relate to each other, I'm just going to group them. So these 2 properties, they relate to the parent of this newsletter. That's why they're there. These 3 properties, they relate to the children of this newsletter. That's why they're grouped differently. And the following properties, they relate to newsletter itself. So I'm purposefully, this is what I actually do. This is how I style websites. So I tend to combine or group different same properties together. I'm just grouping them by adding a space, and that gives you the idea that these properties, they actually relate to each other. So you can see that we have here grid row, grid column, but then in here I have height, width, object, fit, border, radius. I mean, these do not relate to these positioning. So I'm just increasing and providing some styles, but these are actually for layout. So I think this is a good idea to actually go ahead and group your properties just by providing a space. It makes them understandable, easy to understand and easy to follow. Now, in case you're wondering, what I'm actually trying to say is that just think about if I were to mix up all these 6 properties, and let's say there are maybe like 10 properties which we are going to have within this newsletter, and if I mix everything, so the first line that you're going to see is going to depend on its parent, on the parent of newsletter, and the second line is going to depend on the child, and the third one is going to be for the parent again. So it's going to be like really confusing. Okay, why has this guy applied these styles? Now you know why I have applied. So when you crack open the resource files, which you might download from Git or from Drive, you're going to understand, okay, why I've provided these different styles for these elements. So you know it is very, very easy to understand. So this arrangement of code is something that I really pay attention to, and I really believe in readable code. Let's say background color. We are going to say var primary2. That's because it is transparent a little bit. Border radius is going to be 1 rem. Padding is going to be var XLV for top and bottom. And it is going to be LH for left and right. And finally, let's give it some box shadow. 1 pixel horizontal offset, 1 pixel vertical offset, 10 pixel blur radius, and we are going to say secondary 2. Color is going to be secondary 2. So let's just come here. There we go. This is so far. This is what we have created. So you can see that same almost relating properties that are grouped differently. They're grouped together and with just a space. We just want to group them together by just providing a space. So these properties, they have nothing to do with the flex and nothing to do with the align itself. They're just styling for that specific part of the newsletter. So in here, what I'm going to do next is I'm going to grab the newsletter title, which is going to be title, and I'm going to say flex basis. Now, align items, flex direction is row. Flex basis is going to act as the width of the content because flex direction is row. And I'm going to say line height 1.2, text align, let's set it to left. Next up, we are going to have the form. So it's going to be footer, title. I'm going to remove the title. I'm going to add the form. So for the form, I'm going to say flex basis 50% as well. So flex basis 50%. And I'm going to say display flex. Very simple. So I want these elements to be sitting next to each other. So now these two, they're sitting next to each other. There we go. In a flex kind of manner. Now I'm going to style the inputs. There are some styles that I'm going to apply on both of the inputs, and then there are going to be some unique styles for each of these inputs. All right. I'm going to say, so this is going to be form. Let's grab that. Let's put it right here. And within here, we're going to have 2 inputs. So what are the shared styles? For both of them, I want to have border none, outline none, background none, no background for both of the forms that we are going to style. Form inputs. Now the font size, I want it to be the same. So I'm going to say var sts. Padding is going to be 1.5 rem and 2 rem. And border radius, it's going to be 0.5 rem, half of what we are used to providing to our elements. Now, let's take a look at our changes, what we have done so far. So this is what we have done. Now, what I would want to do here is I'm going to grab this input with a type of email, and I'm going to stretch it a little bit further. And this is what we have actually done here, so in case you're wondering. So in here, the top left corner and the bottom left corner, they do have some border radii. And the top right and bottom right corners, for the input type of submit, for the subscribe button, they do have some border radii as well. But the other 2 corners that are basically in touch with each other, they don't have any border radii, so we are not going to provide them there. That is how I've actually created this. So it seems like this is one element, but in fact it is 2 elements. They're like very close to each other. So footer form input, let's use our attribute selectors. We have an input with a type of email. Now I'm going to say flex basis 100%. And after that, let's see what else do we want to do here. So I'm going to give it a border. Border is going to be 1 pixels. So 1 pixel. And then solid. And it's going to be light gray. Very simple color. Light, not green, but gray. After that, now this is going to provide border on all of 4 sides. But I want to remove the border right. So I'm going to say border right. Where is border right? I'm going to provide it none. And then we have applied some border radius or border radii for this element. And that is, we have applied for both of them a border radius of 0.5 pixel, 0.5 rem. Now I want to remove that border radius from top right and bottom right. From these two. So from here, I don't want it to have any border radius, and I don't want it to have from there. Now, I could keep it there, and to show you why I would want to do that. So I'm going to create those properties, and then I'm going to comment them out. So it's going to be border bottom right radius 0, and then the other one is going to be border top right radius. Let's comment out both of them. We are going to comment them back in. Now let's go to submit button. So I could grab the selector. I could change this to submit just to make sure the process is faster. So background image, it's going to be a gradient. So gradient quaternary. Color is going to be primary. The color is primary, and margin left is going to be 1 rem, negative 1 rem. I'm going to comment this out. I'm going to show you why. Let's say border bottom left radius 0, and then the other one is going to be border top left radius. I'm going to comment these two as well. I'm going to show you why I've actually provided these values. The border for this one is going to be 1 pixel solid, and the color for the border is going to be tertiary 1. It's going to be tertiary 1. Let's save that. Let's take a look at our changes. So this is what we have created. I'm going to zoom in so you can really see what I am talking about. So if I don't remove the border from these elements, I could zoom in a little bit more. There we go. So you can see this input element with the type of email. It has a border on top right and bottom right. So I need to remove that just to make sure that both of them are actually one element. There we go. So now this is square on this end, and I need to remove that from here as well, just to make it square. There we go. Let's save that. Cool. This is what we have. Now, what I want to do here is I want to basically bring it towards the right a little bit. So if I just go ahead and if I go back 2 steps, there we go. This is where we are. I could say margin left negative 1 rem. So you can see now this is on top of the input with the type of email. Then I'm going to remove the border radius from there. You could do that, or you could just leave it as it is. But now this makes a little bit more sense as to how this has been created. Now there is something that I've noticed just now, that I just noticed it, and that is instead of providing this color for the border of the input with the type of email, I could go ahead and change the color with the background of this one, or basically provide the same border that we have for the button as well, provide that for the input. So it now, in that case, it would look like that both of them are one element. I mean, that would complete the illusion. So instead of saying light gray for the input with the type of email, I could say tertiary 3. Is it? No, tertiary 1. Let's save that. And let's come here. There we go. I think this looks way better. Way better. Now you can see in my final design, it was just gray. And now it is, I think it looks better. I could just change the text color to that color as well. I'm going to change that and then we are going to see how that is going to react. So I'm going to say color tertiary 1. Let's save that. There we go. I think that looks cool, but when I start typing, it is going to change the color. Let's, you know what, let me try something very quickly. So it's placeholder, where is the declaration block? Right there. So if I put it there, okay, now if I type, it doesn't do anything. Why is it not being applied? I could just remove the space. There we go. Yeah, I wanted to try that. Cool. So what I did was, I'm going to explain that to you. This placeholder pseudo element, this is used to style the placeholder that we provide for our input types. Now, you could style them by just providing them within the input, but this is not actually used to style this placeholder. The color that you provide within the input itself, it is going to style the text that the user is going to write in there, not the placeholder. It is going to style that, but those styles, they're unique to the text that the user is going to put there. So if you but if you use the correct selector, which is pseudo element, then only you're styling the placeholder and you're not styling the text that the user is writing there. And you saw that, right? When I was writing something, so if I say el@el.cool, the text is black, but the placeholder is always going to be that tertiary 1. But if I bring this up, the text is, the placeholder, I know it is changed color, but the text is also changed color, and that is not something that may not be something that you want. So if you just want to style the placeholder, just the placeholder and not the text within the input, just go ahead and use the placeholder pseudo element. This is a pseudo element, hence double colon. There we go. So this is black, and if I remove everything, the placeholder is going to have that tertiary color. Very cool. There we go. Now this, I think, looks way better. The contrast is low for some reason. Let's change it to color 2. I don't think it's that much different. I think it's readable. So let's move on from this topic. So we have created that. The newsletter is done. Let's move into the main info. So it's going to be footer __ main -info. This is the biggest part. For this, I'm going to provide a width of 100%. I wanted to stretch across the entire footer, the entire parent. And in here, let's say the children, now it's going to have 4 items. And all of them, I want them to be display flex, justify content space between, so spaced apart, spaced furthest apart, and I'm going to use flex wrap. There we go. So in case you were like angry with me because I used display grid for blogs, in here I'm using flex wrap. So I basically said that I don't trust flex wrap that much because I'm not sure when it is going to flip or when it is going to jump to the next line, when it is going to lose it and flip out. So I don't know, but when it comes to grid, you have more control. That is just a fact. For those of you who love Flexbox, I mean, that might sound okay, like, what is he talking about? This is what I'm talking about. So with Flex, you don't know when the column is going to jump to the next line. But with grid, you exactly know when it is going to jump because you define that. And I think that gives us a little bit more control, but that does not mean that we should not use flex wrap. I mean, for these small components where I don't really care when that line jumps, I could use flex wrap. So it's going to be description. Let's move on from that topic. It's a little bit of sensitive topic. So flex space is 35%. Where is it coming from? It's coming from extremely time-consuming experimentation. So this is the description itself. Now, what do I want to have? Let's take a look at it here. Okay, let's save this. So this is what we've done. 4 columns. All the elements, they're spaced apart. Now, For the description, for all 4 of these, I want to have display flex. So why not select all of them? So I'm going to say footer. So this is going to be the description. Next stop, let me copy this 4 more times. We are going to have quick links. So quick dash links. After that, we are going to have resources. And after that, we are going to have contact. And for these, I'm going to say display flex, flex direction column, and gap is going to be row gap 2 rem, column gap 0. So basically, I did that for all of these. Now, where is that gap coming from? That gap is the distance between this title and these links. That is the gap. Let's go ahead and let's grab the description image. So I'm going to put that there. I'm going to say __img. I'm going to give it a width of 15 rem, 150 pixels. I'm going to grab the para and the social. They're going to have the same kind of color. So the para and the social, they're going to have the same color. This is going to be photo description, para, and then what are we going to have here? This is going to be social. So within the social, we are going to have anchor element. The icon. The color is going to be primary. So that part is done. The social container is going to be a flex container. Let me copy that, put that right here. Very repetitive styling, I know, but this is something that you need to do in order to basically create your website. So there is not going to be 2 rows. There's just going to be 1 row. So the row gap is going to be 0, but column gap is going to be 2 rem. So they're a little bit spaced apart. Save that. Now you can see they're spaced apart. Next up, we need to go ahead and we need to style the icons themselves. And for the icons, I'm going to provide a font size, which is going to be STM. And then I'm going to say cursor, pointer, and finally, let's say transition all, 0.25 seconds ease. And we are going to have hover effect as well, hover state. It's basically going to change the color to tertiary 1. Let's save that. There we go. So this is exactly what I wanted to do here. Next up, I'm going to grab the title because the title for the quick links, resources, and contact us, they have the same styling. I'm going to grab all 3 of them at the same time. So I'm going to have, I could do this. I could copy these 3, put them right here. I'm going to hold Alt, click here and here. It's going to be __ title. And what do we want to do with the title? So the font size is going to be STMC. The color is going to be primary. And font weight is going to be bold. Cool. Not bolder, but bold. And then we are going to grab the links as well. Let me copy that, put it there. These are going to be links. What do I want to do with for links? I want to say display flex. This is the links container. So display flex, everything is horizontal. Let's change them to vertical, which is going to be column. And row gap, when it is vertical column, row gap is going to be 2 rem. Column gap is going to be 0. There we go. So this is the space. You're going to change the color so they are readable. Let me grab these 3, put them right here, click here and oops. So click here and here. There's going to be an anchor element. Now for the contact, we are not going to have anchor element. We're just going to have li. So color is going to be primary. And font size is going to be STS. Let's say transition all 0.2 seconds. So I'm not going to give it any cubic Bezier or any kind of timing function. There we go. So now you can see the space that I've provided there. And I think now I know why I've provided that span, because that span is actually going to be display block. And I removed it. So let's come here. Let's go to footer contact. So which part is within the span? New York City, of course. Let's come here. Let's grab this, cut it, put it right here. Save that. So that part is done. Let's jump into CSS. So what else do we want to do? Let's grab the hover effect and fix that as well. So hold Alt, click here and here. We're going to say hover. And so what do I want to do with hover? I just want to change the color to tertiary 3. Let's take a look at them. There we go. So this is what I've done. Oops. Here is where we are working actually. So this is what we've done so far. Very cool. Very cool. And what else do I want to do? The last thing that I want to do is just bring this New York City towards the bottom. And that is, what is the class name for that? So it is within the links. It is the contact link, right? It's within the contact. So I'm going to grab that. I'm going to put that there. And it's going to be the last child. And within the last child, we're going to have a span. And spans, they are displayed inline. If I say block, it's automatically going to come to the next line. So that's how simple it is. When you know what CSS properties are actually used for. When you know that, you can basically come up with every kind of style that you want. Cool. Let's take a look at our final website. So we are, I think, done with this part as well. Let's jump into the author section and let's grab that and let's style that. So it is going to be author. For author, first I'm going to provide a border top, which is going to be which is going to be solid. The color is going to be primary 2, and it's going to be 1 pixel. Notice I've changed the property values position for this border, and I'm going to give it a padding of LV for top and bottom, and for left and right 0. So this is the author. AU, it has to grab it. Let's grab the paragraph. Font size is going to be STS. Color is going to be primary. And then footer, author, paragraph, anchor element, which is my name. I'm going to change the color to tertiary 3. Let's save everything. And let's come into our website. There we go. So if you hover on it on the bottom left corner, on top of my taskbar, you can see that href value that we have provided for this link. So I think everything is done in the desktop version. Next up, we need to go ahead and actually keep decreasing. And we are going to start with this newsletter, and then we are going to basically try to make it responsive in one go, right? So we are going to take a look at the newsletter as well as this main info. And I think we are not going to do anything with this author, but let's see. So let's keep making this smaller, smaller, and smaller. And we are going to see where it is that we are going to add some media queries. There we go, smaller, smaller. So you can see that this is getting very small, this email section. So at around 1200, what I would want to do is, let me just get rid of this. So at around 1200, if you take a look at the final design, what I've done is I've actually set the flex direction to column. So now we have a gigantic space to write the email address. That is the same thing that I'm going to do in here. I'm going to copy the team section, comment, and I'm going to put it there. Let's convert it to footer. So it's going to be footer, newsletter, flex direction. Let's change it to column, and gap is going to be 4 rem. Let's save that. Below 1200, there we go. So this is what I've done. Here is above 1200, and here is, below 1200. Cool. Now we need to fix some things. We need to increase the width of this. The contrast is extremely horrible for this one. So what I'm going to do is, you know what, I've actually changed my mind right this second. I'm not going to provide any color for the placeholder. I think it ruins the contrast. I'm going to it doesn't look that good, but I'm going to keep it as it is. So let's come into the 1200. And what else do I want to do? So for the title, what I've done here is I've brought the title, this before element, I've brought it to center. I could do that here as well. And I'm going to say, let's see. I think this title has text align center. I could do that as well. I could do text align center. So it's footer, newsletter title, text align going to be center, and footer news title. This is going to be the before element, left 50%, and then transform, translate X, negative 50%. The first one is going to move the line by 50% based on the dimensions or based on the reference of its parent. But this transform, it has nothing to do with the parent. It is going to move the actual element. So all the element is going to go towards the right by 50% from the left. The left edge of the element is going to be in the middle of this. The left edge is going to be in the middle. The reason for that is because we are moving it when you say left or top or right or bottom. You're moving that element in reference to its parent. But when you say transform, you're moving that element in reference to itself. So when you say 50%, it is going to move itself 50% towards the left. Therefore, it is going to come in the center. It is considered a hack, actually. So if I just get rid of that, and if I come in here, you're going to see this is the left edge of it is exactly in the center of this title. It's exactly in the center. So you need to move not based on the parent, but based on the element itself. So if you move the element itself by 50%, it's going to come exactly in the middle. It's just a hack. It's useful in these kinds of scenarios. So we have footer news title. I'm going to grab that one, and I'm going to grab also footer news form. For both of them, I'm going to say width 100%. Let's save that. Let's take a look at it. There we go. So they're enlarged. They look way better. Cool. So that part is done as well. What else do I want to do here at this point is what else do I want to do here? Let's see. Title, span, inline. So if I keep decreasing the width of the window, is it going to get decreased? Yeah. So the title is getting decreased. I've actually added a style, and I'm not sure why I've added that. I'm actually thinking about that in my reference. So I've said for the newsletter title span, I want to say display inline. Why? Do we have that span in here? We just have one span, and that was in the contact. We don't have any span in here now, so that's just a mistake. Cool, mistake. And finally, what I could do here is, you can see this border. It just it got a little bit the color. It got a little bit how can I say this? A little bit brighter or thicker, and not thicker, but a little bit more visible. So in this way, in here, it's not. It has that opacity to it, but the opacity is being decreased when we go here. But because I've changed this border, I'm not going to actually touch that anyway. So that part is done as well. What else do I want to do here? Let's go ahead and let's decrease the width of the window. So why do I have this here, contact us resources? What is wrong with this page? Background. The background is acting funky. So 1172, 1199, 1294. Yeah, they do look the same. So let me keep decreasing and decreasing. So you can see this is where actually the flex wrap, it is kicking in and it is moving it to the next line. There we go. And keep making it smaller and smaller. Now we are done. I think for now we are done with this newsletter. So we need to keep watching this website, how it is going to react. So we are at the 800. And it is not looking any different. It's not looking bad. It is looking cool. Let's keep decreasing. There we go. There we go. So we are at 630. Let's go ahead. We do have a media query around 500. Let's see if I want to do anything in here. What I could do for the form is I think I've changed the below 500. If I go 498, this is what I've done. I think this looks better than this one, because if I keep decreasing this, then you're not going to have enough space to write the email address. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring the subscribe below this, the other input element, like this one. And now that I'm looking at it, I think I would change that border as well. So where is that input? It's image. This is the email. So for this one, the border, what was the border that we added? It was, I think, light gray. So I'm going to add that. Actually, I don't like it. So I'm going to say light gray. And within 1200, I'm going to basically make it a little bit bolder, or I'm just going to increase the opaqueness, or I'm going to decrease the transparency. So in here, what I'm going to do is, I hope I can convey this point in a clear manner. So it's form, and this is an input which has a type of email. What do I want to do here? I'm going to say border 1 pixel solid HSL. It's going to be 0% for H, 0% for saturation, and for lightness we are going to say 33%. Let's save that. This is what I've done here. There we go. So when you go below 1200, it is going to look a little bit sharper. So it's going to be a little bit more visible. So below 500, I'm going to change their orientation, and I would want them to be on one on top of the other. So here is the 500 media query. And in here, first off, let's go ahead and let's copy that comment, put it down here, change it to footer, so you know footer is present in here as well. So this is footer newsletter, just the newsletter form. I'm going to say flex. Now you can see why flex is important, because it gives you control, and gap is going to be 2 rem. There we go. If I just do that, and if I take a look at it, it already looks really cool. But now there is an issue here. You can see these border radii that we removed from the top and bottom of the input, and the other top and bottom of the submit button. We need to bring them back. And this margin is a little bit towards the right. We need to fix that as well. And you know what? The way that I'm going to fix that is, let's go to input with type of submit. I'm going to remove the margin. We don't need it anyway. So if I come here, there we go. So it's cool. Right here, it's border. Now in here, it is. We can actually see that. So if I provide the margin, save that. Now we can see the border. Okay, why am I opening that up? So I'm going to put it there, but then I'm going to remove it in the 500. So if I can't remove it in the desktop version, I'm going to definitely remove it in the mobile version. So I'm going to say margin left 0. Cool. So what do I want to do here next? Let me just close this page. So if I keep decreasing the width of the window below 500, this is what we are going to end up with. Cool. So let's go ahead and let's fix the border radii. I think I've provided a border right none for this input with the type of email. Why haven't I provided that? Input border right none. Is it not working in here? So let me zoom out. Let me go to its. Let me select this. Come in here. Footer border right none. So if I. Okay, what is it saying? It says filter rules containing this property. This is not being applied because this border. Okay, we are below 1200. Let's go above that. There we go. So it is not being applied because of that border. I guess. So if I just reload the page, let's reload the page. Let's come down to here. Border right. It is being applied. Cool. But when I say border none, why is it not being applied here? Why does it have a border? It shouldn't have a border. I mean, let's first save that. The margin is fixed. And if I come in here, take a look at it. I mean, these small things, they are really they're going to get you. So if I say, oh, the reason that it has border is because I've applied border right here. On 1200, I've said, okay, I'm going to make the border a little bit less transparent. And in doing so, I've said, okay, border top left, bottom right on all the sides. That's why it has border. Cool. So let's come down to the 500. What else do I want to do here? Let me first fix the submit button. So it is border bottom left radius. So for border bottom left radius, I'm going to say 0.5 rem. And for border top left, it's going to be 0.5 rem as well. And let's save that. Let's come here. Why is it not cursor pointer? It has to be cursor pointer. Have I not provided that on the top? So where is it? Submit. No, cursor pointer. So cursor, let's say pointer. There we go. I'm going to come down here to the 500. There we go. And it is going to be cursor pointer. Even if I go back, it's going to be cursor pointer. Very cool. And it's going to be cursor pointer right here as well. So this border is done. Let's go ahead and let's fix the input with the type of email. That is messed up as well. Let's say email. And I'm going to say in here, basically these two values. And I'm going to say these two are going to be right. Very simple. So this border, they're done. They're fixed. And the final thing that I'm going to do here is going to be let's say I want to increase the width of this description. How I would go ahead and do that. So footer, let's first take a look at our final website. It's right here. And if I go below 500, how is it going to act? So it's going to, you can see it's taking the entire width of the container and all the elements, they're basically pushed towards the bottom. So it is main info description, and I could say width, or because the flex direction is row, I could just say flex basis. This is going to act as row. This is going to act as width. There we go. So it is taking, and all the links there on the next line. If I keep decreasing the width of the window, 320, you can see that everything is looking cool. There we go. So with this, the entire website has come to an end. This entire gigantic website that we have created, this has come to an end. And this tutorial series has come to an end as well. I really had the time of my life creating this tutorial series. There are 145 videos, I think. 145, that's what my count says. And there is a ton of content. I'm sure this is like close to 30 hours of content. So if you're a beginner, and I guess when you have completed this entire series, you're not a beginner. So it was a really, really good journey. I started this. It took almost, I think, 3 months creating this entire series. And this is what I do. I put a lot of work, a lot of thought into even YouTube videos, as much as I do in Udemy courses, my own courses. So I really appreciate you coming along this far, and I commend you on your dedication and hard work. And if you want to learn more, feel free to always go ahead and check out my courses on Udemy. There is a ton of courses. I'm working on a couple of new courses. The courses, maybe by the time you're watching this video, courses will be out. It's going to be the UI. One is going to be CSS Layouts Bootcamp, Design to Deployment. The other one is going to be a Responsive Web Design and Development Bootcamp. So these are going to be the 2 new courses that I'm working on. They're going to be published within the next couple of months. So I hope by the end of June, 2022, they'll be published. So you can go ahead and you can check them out as well. In this tutorial series, I actually covered the essentials. But if you want to really dive deep into creating websites, into website performance, into accessibility topics and all of that, I cover all of those in my Udemy courses. Go ahead. They're very cheap courses. They're not that expensive, just like $10. For most of you, for most countries, for some countries, it's even less than that. Extremely affordable. I'm really happy if you go ahead. I would really be happy if you go ahead and if you buy them. They're going to be extremely affordable. And I actually, the reason that I put too much thought and work into creating websites for YouTube videos is because I want you guys to have quality education for free as well. So I'm not against that. I'm not against free as well. That is why I decided to starting with in 2022. I started this channel in 2021. I didn't do any work, but starting in 2022, I'm going to have a lot of content going into 2023, 24, 25. It's going to be like more than like 2,000-3,000 videos for this tutorial, for this entire YouTube channel. There's going to be an insurmountable amount of technologies that we're going to cover as well. So I'm really happy that you came this far, and I'm really, I really appreciate you coming this far, and I'm sure that you've learned a lot. Go ahead and apply it to something real world. Now you have everything that you need to know when it comes to design, to making websites responsive. Now you can go ahead and take a look at any website and basically go ahead and recreate it. And the more websites you recreate or create, the more this problem-solving part of your brain is going to be activated, and you're going to come up with better solutions because each website is going to be different. So with this, this entire tutorial series comes to an end. I wish you the best in your life and in your career. Happy coding and learning.